Now it's time to be dangerous. Now it's time to get risky. Now it's time to truly find out what you're made of and what you could achieve. Now it's time to truly find out how many lives you can impact. Now it's time to find out what you were destined to become.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back on another Monday night, filming another episode. I'm your host, Anthony.
And I'm Eric.
And we are Raw Minds.
Yeah.
Welcome back, brother.
Welcome back. Happy Easter.
Happy Easter. How was your Easter?
That was okay, man. We just took it easy. Didn't really have your traditional Easter dinner. Just hung out. I don't know.
Yeah.
It seems like holidays, for me anyways, man, it's not what it was when you were a kid,
Yeah, the magic fades.
Yeah, definitely. But it's for the kids, man, at the end of the day. But, I mean, that's what she wanted, what she wanted. So we ate pizza, man. That's what she wanted. So whatever. Easter dinner pizza, man.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I was sick pretty much all last week. I was sick on my birthday. And then I pulled it together on Sunday, man. I woke up and I had like dishes in my sink from the week that I didn't get done. I had laundry on my floor that needed to be folded. And man, I did like 4 loads of laundry on Sunday, did all my dishes. I fucking meal prepped. I got everything done. Feeling much better today, so
that's good, man. Yeah, we haven't even really talked too much, right? So
yeah,
down and out, definitely. But I'm glad you're feeling better.
Yeah, just trying to amalgamate or reacclimate myself to working life again. I was off for a month, then I came out and visited you for a week, and came back, and my body's. It was good times. My body's still fucking suffering, trying to get back into the swing of things, but it is what it is.
Yeah, you'll get there. But you're trying to get out of it anyways, man, right?
Yeah. I'm looking back into the firefighting thing, man. I realized like the way I was approaching it before with like going back to school, just it's not something else that I can throw into my life. I can't add anything to my life right now. If anything, I need to focus on things. So I think for me, it's going to be like with working full time, having 2 kids as a single father, recovery, and this, like I don't have room for school. So it's like, if I'm going to fucking do it, I'm going to do the podcast, and I'm going to put my head down during the week, and I'm going to go to this school that's specifically for firefighting. It's 14 weeks. Put my fucking head down, go do that school, do the podcast on Mondays and the interviews on Wednesdays, and come home on the weekend and be a fucking dad, because I got to go to Toronto to do it. So just suffer through 14 weeks and then work at.
And how long of a drive is that again for you? That's 2 hours, isn't it? Something like that.
So the course is actually at the airport in Toronto. So yeah, it would be a 2-hour drive from my home, but my stepdad lives in Toronto, so I got to work some stuff out with him. But I'd probably end up just staying at his house for the week.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, because it's like a 25-minute, 30-minute drive from his place to the airport. So just suck it up for 14 weeks, tough it out, get the course done, get all my certifications, get a job. And because the thing with firefighting, man, is they work 7 days a month. They work 2 days a week and 1 day at the end of the month on the last week.
What?
So 2 24-hour shifts a week. So you go in from 7 at night till 7 the next night. And that doesn't mean you're always on calls, but you're at the hall, right? So depending on where you work in the city, if you're in a rough neighborhood, you'll probably get called out on a lot of medicals. But if you're in like, so my stepdad, his career path is kind of guided him to the rough parts. So he said when he was a firefighter, because he's a fire chief now, he said that he would average like 30 calls on like the busy nights in a 24-hour period. Whereas brother, who also worked in Toronto, worked in a different hall. He worked in like a high, like rich neighborhood, and they would work like 8 calls in 24 hours.
Oh, okay.
So it all depends on where you work in the city and how busy you want to be. Some guys like to be busy to kill 24 hours. Some guys just like to hang out at the hall. So we'll see, man. It's a path that I'm just tired of living the way that I'm living, and now I'm at a point where I'm willing to do whatever it takes to not be in this path anymore. And how about you?
I'm in the same boat as you, man. Getting out of the construction industry. I want to do something, media maybe. I mean, we spoke before. I mean, I said I didn't have any media training, but then I do, man. And we do this podcast, like you said, right? So I'm going to just, put my feelers out there and see what grabs at the end of the day.
Yeah, like you could legitimately put this on your resume, 100%.
Oh, I'm going to definitely, man.
Fuck yeah. I
Yeah,
was thinking about that the other day, actually. Like, shit, this is like resume worthy.
yeah, it is definitely. Well, I mean, look, we edit, we market, we do all this. We're doing
Interview, host.
interviews. Yeah,
Yeah.
man. So, I mean, it's definitely something that's gonna go on my resume. I'm actually gonna touch it up and fix it
Yeah.
probably by tomorrow and put it on.
There you go. Hell yeah.
But so I just want to touch on this guest that we have on today.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea anything about her. Nothing. I think was I too sick or something like that? I think it was. Or
No, you were
what was
doing
it?
something. You were busy doing something, so you
Oh,
couldn't
okay.
make it.
Yeah.
And then you got home, and I was going to make it a very brief interview because for those of you who don't know, the way we do our pre-interviews is we just want a quick little general rundown about what you kind of want to talk about so that we have a rough idea of what we're going to discuss. We don't do any research. We don't have any preloaded interview questions. Like we don't plan anything. It's raw. So
Yeah.
like what happens, happens. So went into it and I was just like, yeah, we're just going to keep it brief. Like Eric wasn't able to make it. And then like an hour and a half later, you ended up popping on because we were still on. And you caught the tail end of our conversation
Yeah.
because the interview realistically took 25, 30 minutes. And then we just went off the rails talking about life and talking about everything. And it was a fucking great conversation.
Which we should
So
start recording.
yeah. We've been talking about fucking recording the interviews because there's a lot of good stuff that gets said and talked about in there. And we really should. We should start asking people when we do them if we can record them.
Yeah, man. That
But
could even
yeah.
be. We can even have that as like extra content or something if
Yeah,
they're
man.
okay with it.
Absolutely. But yeah, so this will be our second guest in a row who's a female,
Mm-hmm.
the second of three. We
Mm-hmm.
have Maggie next week. Therian is great because she works in essentially a construction industry. So she gets to see firsthand how fucking unwell and unemotionally aware men. And yeah, she's got a great story. So why don't you bring her out of the back room? This is the second time she's been back there, so let's bring her out.
Let's bring her out. Welcome back
Hi.
again.
Hey, you look less nervous this time than you did the
Yeah.
first time.
I'm not a choke artist. It's fine. I just needed a mulligan.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, thanks for having me, you guys. I'm really excited to be a part of this and here have cool conversations with you. It's really,
It's awesome.
I think it's good that you guys are doing this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. We love it. It's our passion. It's what fills our bucket.
And this only happens because we get people like you who are willing to come on and talk about it and share their experience and their perspective on it too, right? We're just the guys with the fucking computer programs. Eric's the guy with the computer knowledge, and I'm just the guy who's good at talking. But like it's you guys, especially the guests who like make this as impactful as it is and as impactful as it can be.
Yeah.
Right? Because
Definitely.
it's different people every week. Me and Eric can sit here and talk till the fucking cows come home. When you get people from all walks of life doing different things with their life and having different experiences, that's what makes Raw Minds what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you.
I think a lot of the time people will think that, including myself, will be like, I don't have anything to offer. I don't have anything to say. And actually, it was one day I was watching Masterclass, and I was watching Alicia Keys, and she said something about creating and being artistic and putting yourself out there. And she was like, even if you think that what you're doing is this big, she's like, it's still part of what needs to be done in the whole like grand scheme
Mm-hmm.
of this planet. So you got to just
You know
put
what I
yourself
always
out there.
tell guests too in the interviews, because they'll come in and like, don't get me wrong, we've had some guests with some pretty wild experiences. Like Peter's experience was pretty wild. He got shot 26 times, 6 times in the head.
I started watching episode 1 the other day, and then I didn't get all the way through, and I fell asleep on the couch because I've been in and out of consciousness. But yeah,
Yeah.
I need to finish watching those episodes.
Yeah, so like that's a pretty extreme experience, right? So we'll get people in the interviews and they'll be like, "Wow, I don't have a story like Peter's." And I always tell them, like, you don't get to decide if your story's valuable or not. It's the people who listen that do. And there's
Yeah, because you
always going to
never
be at
know.
least one person who finds it more valuable than you think it is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I run into that a lot in recovery, is like, there's been a lot of times where people have said things to me and I never told them how impactful those things were for me, and they'll never know that. But
Hmm.
there's also been times that I've said things and like I've just said them to say them, and like, not that they don't hold any depth and weight with me, but I could say better things, right? But then I'll, like, fucking years later, I had someone at a meeting, and this was like 2 years ago, come up to me and be like, I heard you speak before. And I'm like, I don't even know who you are. Well, I heard you speak on Zoom like a year and a half ago. I'm like, what the fuck? And they're like, yeah, I was in treatment and our treatment group came to your Zoom meeting and I heard you speak and you said these things. And I'm like, holy fuck. Like, I didn't know, like, that it was that important to somebody, like, we don't get to decide what's important. It's the people who need to hear it that get to decide if it's
Mm-hmm.
important or not.
And that's why being vulnerable is so important, right? You gotta just
Absolutely.
put yourself out there and hope that everybody, whoever needs to hear it, hears it. So
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that's what we're trying to do, right? We're trying to,
Hmm.
and that's the thing is like we have people like you're saying, all walks of life, and they got different stories, but they at the end of the day, the end game is all the same,
That's right.
right?
Yeah.
well, what do we all want at the end of the day? We want to be happy. We want
Yeah.
to, have fun with our friends and family.
And
Eat
healthy
good
too.
and healthy. Eat good
Yeah.
food. Have good times, good laughs, and
Yeah.
like that's what life should be all about at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So yeah. So yeah.
So do you want to get into your stuff here? Get your story rolling?
Oh.
Yeah, you know what? I'll just come out flat and say it. Like I was starting to say before we got cut off before. So I'm 2 weeks post-op. I just had a breast reduction surgery, and I was contemplating on whether or not I was going to announce that. But then I was like, you know what? There's some girls that are on YouTube talking about their entire journey, and since I'm one of the first girls on this podcast come talk, I figured I might as well talk about it. So yeah, I had a breast reduction. It was like a couple years. I was on the waiting list to get it done. Kind of toggled back and forth. I was a little bit scared to do it. And quite frankly, I was one of those girls, like I used to get made fun of in like junior high school for being flat chested. And I used to pray. I was like, please God, give me boobs.
Don't pray too fucking hard or you might get exactly what you asked for.
Well, that's exactly it. You know what they say, like be careful what you wish for, right? And
Yeah.
the women in my family are pretty well endowed, so I ended up blossoming a lot later in life, but I blossomed like pretty damn big. And then I went through, life is a journey, right? And I went through a specific time in my life where I started to lose weight, so they shrunk a little bit, but they were still very like heavy. And since the age of 25, I've been dealing with back pain and shoulder pain and haven't been able to like move my body the way that I want to. So finally I got put on a wait list, and then I went and got the surgery done 2 weeks ago. So it's been an interesting transformation because I guess you could say like a lot of my identity kind of circulated around me having a chest.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I looked at myself in the mirror, I bawled my eyes out. My friend was there hugging me, and she's like, "It's okay, you still look good." And I was like, just this whole like wave of emotions. And like, of course, like you mentioned, we'll get into that, but I work in construction and I'm around a lot of guys. So like the guys that I'm really close with on my crew, I was like, yeah, I'm going to get a breast reduction. And of course, every guy that I tell in my life is like, why would you want to do that? And I'm like, because it's a lot. It's a lot having pounds of weight hanging off your chest. Like it's you can't fit into things properly. It's uncomfortable. And quite frankly, it's just a nuisance. So I was like, yeah, like it was a hard decision, but I decided to do it, and I'm glad that I did. So
I was gonna ask, like, how are you feeling now that it's done? Like, and you've had your ugly cry after it was done. Like, how's it going?
I'm feeling good. Like I'm feeling okay. I'm still healing. I have my post-op appointment tomorrow. Like I'm a lot smaller, but like my friends were all like, you look great, and like it makes your frame look smaller. Like you look more like, I've been getting in shape, and I've been on the journey of like fitness and dancing and taking care of my body and eating good and drinking less and all that. And my friends were like, your body looks good, like everything's good. And I was just like, it's an adjustment though, because it's like getting a really crazy haircut, and you look at yourself in the mirror and you're like, holy shit.
Mine's when I trim my beard. I'm just like, every time I do it, I'm like, why the fuck would I do that? I'm like a fucking 6-year-old.
And quite honestly, I'm 35, I don't have kids yet, but if and when I do have kids, they're going to grow back. And because of my genetic predisposition, they will probably grow back again. But I was just like, I'm just glad that I kind of got that relief. Yeah. So it's a journey. And
it's
So
for
this is
your mental state and also for your physical too, right? Like you're saying, right? So, yeah.
it's, you know, it's not just the body image. It's a whole wave of different things. Like there's so many
literal
different
health reasons.
Yeah.
Like,
Absolutely. I've been going to chiropractors, massages, acupuncture, physio, because I've been in so much pain. I've been popping muscle relaxers and like just so many things where I'm just like, oh my God, I'm in agony. And like, I go to dance classes and it's like, it's hard for me to move my body because I'm in pain. I just have this heavy chest that I'm just like, my God.
Yeah.
I'm excited for when the healing is like they say it takes a minimum of 4 weeks, but like up to like 6 months to a year to really fully be like, hey, like you're in the clear. So I'm excited for like when I'm able to just like get back to my regular routine, start working out again and all that stuff. So should be good. But like, thank you. Thank you. So like I said, it just kind of, it was a lot of it. It's like a transitional period where I was like, I definitely like used to write in my diary about this when I was a girl. Like maybe the boys would like me if I had big boobs. And then I realized I was like, you know what? I'm 35 and I'm like, I actually don't give a shit if the boys like me or not.
Yeah.
You had them, you enjoyed them, you're fucking over it.
They can all go to hell for I care. Like if you don't like me for me, then to hell with you. So, like, you know. So
you were saying earlier, like if you had a kid, they could grow back. Like would they stay, or would it just be like pregnancy boobs? Because I know they're a thing.
I don't know. We'll have to cross that bridge when I get there.
God.
I'm assuming they would probably grow and then they'd probably deflate. Who freaking knows? I don't know.
I was gonna say, would you do it again if they stayed?
I've known some girls that have done it twice, and I probably would. Like if they got really, really big again, I probably would.
And does the government pay for that, or does it came out of your own pocket?
The government paid for it. You can pay out of pocket if you want it rushed, or if you want like a specific doctor.
Yeah.
But I just was like, I got a doctor referral, and
that's good that the government
everything
takes
comes.
Care of it,
everything comes with a price. Like
yeah,
you want to get it done tomorrow, you can pay X amount of dollars, but we'll pay for it if you want to wait.
Well, that's just like anything, and like CT scans stuff. Like I've heard that people are going to the States from Vancouver.
Who were we talking to about that? We were talking to someone about that. I think
it was Peter.
I think it was Peter, and he was saying, people were going down to the States because it's cheaper to go down to the States and get like CAT scans and MRIs.
That's even crazier because like you could have cancer and like be like, oh, I feel sick, something's wrong. They're like, yeah, we'll get you a scan in 6 months to a year, and you're like, by that time I could have stage 4 and die the next day. You're like, what?
Well, there was that person not too long ago. They were in the hospital in the waiting room, and they had a heart attack while they were waiting in the waiting room, and they died in the waiting room.
Yep,
it's crazy.
Yeah, and I know I talk about this a lot too, but it's the same with addiction. Like, if you were to go to a government-funded facility, you would call it in, you would get put on a wait list from 6 to 8 months from now. And I don't know many people who get to the point of being willing to go to treatment who have 6 to 8 months to live. If they're willing to go to treatment, they're pretty much fucking done right then and there.
Yeah.
But if you have $40,000, you can go tomorrow. Find me a fucking drug addict who has $40,000 to spend on fucking rehab.
And that's where it's kind of the system that we're in is just kind of a little bit sick in itself.
It's so broken. Yeah. That's why I'm voting Liberal again for a 4th term. I'm joking. And I know we say no politics. I know. I just fucking broke our one fucking rule. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, everybody. I'm going to show you
the sign on my front lawn and be like, oh, no.
Fuck, I'm sorry to everybody listening who's going to vote Liberal. You are entitled to your opinion. You're entitled to be free to vote.
I went to the polls yesterday with my friend. And she's like, you did vote for who you're supposed to vote for, right? I was like, no, I voted Rhinoceros Party.
Yeah. Do you guys remember in the States, like fucking 8 or 10 years ago, when people were putting Harambe on the fucking voting cards?
No.
And remember the gorilla?
Yeah, I know who he is.
So when there was an election around that time, and people in the States were actually writing his name on fucking voter cards, and he got more votes because this was when Kanye was running. He got more votes than Kanye West did, for fuck's sakes, and he's not even alive, and he's not even human.
A gorilla, and he's
a dead gorilla.
Like all the options that we have, gorilla.
Yeah, he had
Oh
like
my God.
0.07% of the
Let's
votes.
be real. He'd probably be a better leader than all of them.
Oh,
Probably.
fuck. Yeah.
Is that the
Yeah.
one that could like paint? Could he paint and
No,
stuff?
that's the one where the kid fell into the enclosure and then it like protected the kid.
Protected
But-
him, yeah.
Yeah, but then they had to shoot it because the gorilla wouldn't let it go.
But
Oh,
there's that one gorilla too, and he paints. I forget his name. I thought that was him. Never mind.
Yeah, Harambe was the one where everyone had the saying "dicks out for Harambe." People were like whipping their dicks out. I don't know if you know that part of it. But that was like a thing.
What?
Yeah, I don't know if people are actually doing it, but that's what they were saying. "Dicks out for Harambe." That was the trending hashtag.
this planet.
Yeah, no
it's
kidding. Fuck.
Anyways,
So I guess I don't know if that was a proper segue into like my story, but it definitely kind of forms the foundation of like my general message and where I'd be going with this conversation, because a lot of my story and my life journey experience has been about like self-love and self-acceptance, and just learning that like I'm okay without the validation of anybody else, and I'm okay on my own, and I'm okay just being me. And I think that like, you know, a lot of that stemmed from a very, very young age. And I often questioned myself. I was like, where did all this come from? Like, why did I feel that way? Like, why did I feel like I didn't belong? Why did I feel like I wasn't good enough? Why did I feel like people didn't like me? And then like the older I get and the more that I learn, I'm more like, I actually am quite all right with myself and who I am and where I'm at and the things that I've endured and encountered. And I've gone through some pretty dark times with like drugs and alcohol and hanging out with the wrong crowd and the wrong people. And all of that was because I didn't have any self-respect or self-love.
Mm-hmm.
And ever since I started to, you know, a lot of people think that it's cliche, but I think that at the end of the day, everybody needs a little bit of self-love. And I don't think that it's implied enough to people in life that like, if you don't love yourself, what, like, you know, what, then what? And like, Anthony, you know, probably from doing recovery and stuff, it's like, you know, codependency. We know all about codependency and like how we end up relying on like outside sources. And I know we talked about this in the interview conversation, but like one of the things that kind of got the ball rolling for me was when I read Russell Brand's Recovery, and then he talked.
Yes.
So I was like, I'm not an addict. I don't have any problems. But then he was like, well, actually, he's like, codependency is, as much as it's like probably one of the smallest addictions, it's definitely impactful, and it definitely has a huge weight on a lot of people. Because if you're addicted to being codependent, then like, you know, who's looking after you and who's taking care of you at the end of the day, right?
Mm-hmm.
well, that's essentially what addiction is. It's a codependency on something.
Yeah.
Right?
Mhm.
Like if it's a substance that makes you feel okay, if it's a person, if it's sex, if it's food, like you're
Could be
codependent
anything,
on
really.
something, yeah,
Yeah,
to
it
give
is
you that
anything.
validation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything.
Because
I mean, just on your
humans-
phone, doom scrolling. You know.
Yeah.
Absolutely. God, I've been doing a lot of that in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, me
Holy
too.
crap. It's
Well, I
bad.
bet. Yeah.
I'm like, I don't do well. And that's the thing. So I think that a lot of humans want answers, and we want like a reason, and we want to feel like we have something to live for or believe in or whatever. And the thing is, when you boil it down, I think that we're left with this like emptiness and this nothingness. And if you don't have anything to fill that, then you feel like you need to fill it with something, whether it be food, sex, shopping, drugs, alcohol, etc. Right? So, and I think that like, I think we touched on too, like Buddhism, you know, Buddhism teaches a lot about like, you know, accepting the bad and the good and realizing that you're still in the state of like, you know, just living, and you can't have the good without the bad.
Yeah.
Right?
Yin and yang. That's the whole thing about yin and yang. With everything in life, you have good and bad. You have yin and yang. So there's always an opposite. You know, there's always an opposite to a positive. There's a negative in everything we do. And that's what it's surrounded by.
Yeah. Every life is neutral, and then you have good experiences and bad experiences, and it's all how you like navigate and perceive them at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
One of the best things my therapist told me when I was in treatment too was like, she asked me why I use, and like part of it was, you know, like I don't want to feel the bad shit. And she's like, well, the problem is like you don't get to decide if you're going to numb. You don't get to pick and choose what you're going to numb. You either numb it all or you
Mhm.
feel everything. You don't get to fucking decide you don't want to feel this, so you go get high, and then you just don't feel that. Well, if you take that away, you're taking away the good feelings too. So you don't get to feel good and you don't get to feel bad. Like
Mhm.
you just don't feel any of it. You're numbing. That's what you're doing.
Mhm.
Yep.
And that's, I think, in my experience and having a lot of friends in recovery and working with a lot of people in recovery, that's what the thing is they find that thing that keeps them safe from the things that they don't want to feel, but in doing that they're excluding themselves from life itself
Mm-hmm.
because they just rather feel nothing than be vulnerable to anything, which
And
is
you're not really
unfortunate.
truly being present and experiencing life for what it is. And like, as much as
Yeah.
life can be dark and cruel, life is also extremely beautiful at the same time, right?
Yep.
So, but yeah, I think that was. I was trying to figure out how I'm going to summarize like my life in in a tight window and just be like, hey, so basically, like I said, the summary of it is when I was a kid, I grew up with this like notion that I wasn't cool or didn't belong or was never going to be like that girl or never going to be like that girl, et cetera, et cetera. Always comparing myself, didn't feel good enough. So that eventually bled into like my young adult friendships, which then I started to hang out with the wrong crowd because it's like, well, those people accept me and these people are cool enough. And because I was so naive and didn't have a lot of life experience, I started hanging out with people that I probably shouldn't have been hanging out with.
Mm-hmm.
And then that bled into my boyfriend relationships, dating guys that definitely I shouldn't have been dating. And then, doing drugs and drinking too much and just partying and just like living that lifestyle of like, trying to belong and, just trying to find it in all the wrong places. And it wasn't until actually, so my dad died 10 years ago, April 13th. And it wasn't until, it's crazy because I hate saying it, but actually him dying actually was a huge like transitional shift for me, and that's when I really started to like see things differently and life started to transform for me in a lot of good ways. I didn't see it at the time because I was
Mm-hmm.
still like head in the clouds and doing blow and drinking all the time, but
I think Eric could relate to that experience if you want to touch on
yeah.
that quick, Eric.
Yeah. I mean, for my fiance that passed away,
Mm.
it was definitely a hard thing that I went through. But at the end of the day, here we are, and we've helped many men through hard times and just people that we don't even know of, and we've created this beautiful platform because of the loss of her. Yeah, it sucks. It really does suck. But with her passing, this wouldn't be here. I mean, I would
Really?
rather have
Is that
her.
how this all started? This is
Yeah,
how, oh,
yeah.
okay.
But I
Well, there's
mean,
actually
I would rather have her here. Don't get me wrong.
of course.
But I mean,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, like, life is life, right?
Hmm.
Shit
Mhm.
happens, and it really sucks.
Well,
But
we all
yeah,
die at the end of the day.
yeah, we're all gonna die. Yeah, yeah,
And that's one of the hugest things that we have to accept in life is like your time here is unknown and you got to
yeah,
just live your life. And
yeah,
there's a saying like instead of being up in the stands, you want to be on the field playing the
yeah,
game.
yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
So you got to take the chances and take the shots. And like life is scary and life is hard, and obviously there's some people that are far more have worse than others, but
mm-hmm.
at the end of the day we're all on this planet trying to survive and trying to just do the best we can do.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
but yeah, there's also a book called No Mud, No Lotus. It's a book about Buddhism. So that kind of reminded me of that, like, the passing of your fiance, as dark as that is, what grew from that? Something beautiful, right?
yeah,
So,
yeah.
Mhm.
yeah.
And it's all about finding the lessons and things. And you know what? Sometimes you may do the right thing, but you're gonna the lesson can still suck at the end of the day. Like, for example, I heard this thing. So this kid, he was in school, and some boy was messing around with his sister. So the kid punched the kid out, right, for messing around with his sister. And they brought him to the principal's office, and they said, okay, well, we got to call your parents, blah blah blah. They called the dad, and the dad's like, how can I help you? And he's like, well, your son got in a fight and he punched out the boy. He's like, okay, well, why are you calling me? He's like, well, he's suspended now. He's like, okay, well, suspend him then. Fine, whatever. So then he sent the kid home. The kid went home, and he was worried that his dad was going to be mad at him, but his dad was proud of him for sticking up for his sister, right, and protecting her. But he still got suspended. He's like, well, then why am I suspended? He's like, well, sometimes you have to do the right thing, but there's consequences for the right thing, you know, and you're going to have to, even though you're going to do the right thing, you got to be willing to accept those consequences. And it could, just because it's a good thing, there is still consequences behind them.
100%.
Yeah. So it was a cool little story that I was listening to the other day. Made you really think, right? You know, just because you do the right thing, you know, there is always consequences in some manner, something. But there's lessons too, right? And it's a lesson that son made. You know, and the lesson is, you know, just because it's a good thing doesn't mean, you know, that, and it's the right thing doesn't mean that, you know, you're gonna walk away from it and
Well, not
everybody's gonna
everybody's
high
gonna.
five you.
Yeah, not everybody's going to have the same reaction, because what's
Yeah.
good on one end might not be good for another, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, and as far as the school's concerned, they're going to be like, okay, well, you know, you can't be violent at school. It's like,
Yeah.
but would the school system really do something if you're like, hey, this guy keeps messing around with my sister? They're going to be like, slap on the wrist. You know what I mean? Like,
I tell my kids, you talk to the person involved, then you talk to the teacher, and if it still happens, you take care of it yourself. And I tell them, I'm like, if there's an issue, you fucking, first thing you say is call my dad. My dad will handle it.
I always think about situations like that. Like, I'm like, if I had kids and somebody was like picking on my kid because I was bullied, I'd probably go down there and be like, all right, let's go. Which one of these kids needs to be, you know? But like, that's just how I feel, because I feel so strongly about bullying and people being like treated like shit, because I've been down that road so much, and it's just like, no, like, it's not okay to treat people like crap.
Yeah.
You know, what you think is funny is not funny to that person. They might go home and hang themselves. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
You never know. Well, let's face it though, kids are mean, you know,
kids are mean.
and you know what? Speaking, like, I went through this with my daughter on her birthday 2 years ago. I was so proud of her. So her and her best friend, they wanted to go on the trampoline for her birthday party. She didn't want any other friends. It was just her and her friend. We went to the trampoline park for her birthday. So they met 3 other girls there. They just became friends, right? Just, you know, met them. And then there's these 3 grade 8s. So my daughter was in grade 4 at the time. Yeah, 4. And these 3 grade 8s go up to my daughter, and they're being super rude to all the girls, you know, bullying them, following them. And I'm sitting up top and I'm watching this whole interaction, right? And there's a part of me that wants to just step in, but I'm like, no, I gotta let her, you know, figure out her life, let her deal with this, right?
Problem solve, I guess. Yeah.
Exactly, right? Because like, if I stand in the middle of it, then she's never gonna learn, right? And she's always just, you know. So I was watching and watching, and apparently they were saying really rude things to my daughter and the girls, and then they're like, we're in grade 8 and we can jump you if we want to. And they backed my daughter up against the wall with their friends. And my daughter's tiny, right? She's just over 4 feet, right? She's a tiny little one. And I was so proud of her when they said something. Like, I didn't know what they said, but this is what my daughter told me after. Like, we're in grade 8, we can jump you if we want. And my daughter stepped forward in front of friends, jumped on the trampoline, jumped up in the air, grabbed this girl. Don't mind me, I don't condemn fighting, but I condemn standing up for yourself, you know?
Yeah.
And she grabbed this grade 8 and she brought her to the ground and she fed her a couple shots, and the girl was crying. And I stood up and I was like, fuck yeah, good job. And they left my daughter alone. They left everybody, and then my daughter came out. And then I saw her. I'm like, listen, I'm not mad at you. I'm proud of you. I watched the whole thing and you stood up for yourself, you know, and I'm proud of you.
Hell
and
yeah.
then I ended up going out there after, and I told them, I was like, you guys come near my daughter again, I don't care who you are, I'll fucking throw all of you guys across the trampoline park and your parents. Like, you guys are grade 8s and you guys are picking on little kids. I'm like, grow up. And I just walked away.
We'll see who jumps who.
Yeah. But yeah, that was, and then I had to put in my 2-piece just so they didn't go after them again after, right? But I was proud of her, man. I was really proud of her. She stood up for herself, you know, and she just did the one move, brought her down, and then walked away. Like, she didn't escalate it anymore. You know, she did the right thing, and it put that bully in her place. And now that grade 8 just got jumped by a grade 4. So go fuck yourself to that kid.
Hell yeah.
Fuck that kid.
Yeah.
Fuck that kid indeed.
Yeah.
Little bitch. I often am like, because I was like, when I got picked on in school, I was like, if I had had the confidence and like the ability to like see that I was a pretty awesome person, would I have allowed it half the time? Like probably not. And then it's funny because like, I've had a couple of times where like Facebook Messenger will be like, you have a request, and it'll be like some guy that was like, oh hey, remember me? And I'm like, yeah, you were used to be really mean to me. And I want nothing to do with you. Thank you. Have a great day. And then they try to be like, I'm sorry. And I'd be like, delete. Like,
Yeah.
and that feels good of itself. But it's just funny because it's like, oh yeah, like back then you used to make fun of me and tease me and treat me like shit and whatever. And now you want to come and talk to me like nothing ever happened. Like that's kind of
Yeah.
sick.
Yeah.
But guess
Yeah.
that's the way
Well,
of it.
that's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. So,
Yeah.
but good for you for having self-love and self-worth and telling them to go fuck themselves and keep on moving on,
Well,
because that's them, seeing you blossomed, and they're like, oh, I gotta reach out. Probably, I bet you that's exactly what it is, and you're saying, fuck
100%.
you. Yeah.
I've said that I kind of had like an ugly duckling uprising. Like, back then I wasn't included. Nobody wanted me around. And I grow into the swan. I'm a beautiful young woman. And it's just like, now everybody wants to be like, oh, hey, like, remember me? I'm like, no, actually, I don't. Cause you're an asshole, actually.
Yeah.
And now I have the wherewithal to speak up and be like,
Good.
no.
Good.
I used to be worried what people thought of me, and now I could care less because I'm actually so confident in myself and I feel so good about where I'm at now that I'm just like, I couldn't care less. And if you don't fit in with me, then I want nothing to do with you.
Good.
So
Good
what
for
would
you.
you say, Therian, was the catalyst for you to kind of transition into like focusing more on yourself and rather what others thought about you?
I was trying to think of where that developed. Because like I remember, I'd say it was probably around the age of 28, 29. Like I said, my dad passed when I was 25. I dated a guy when I was like 27 to 29. I remember telling him I knew that like psychically I was going through a transition, and I knew that I was evolving, and I knew that I was growing, and I knew that I was going to have to cut off a lot of my old ways and old habits and old people and old belief systems in order to like segue for what was coming for me.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know what it was, but I knew that it was coming, if that makes sense. So I just like, I would journal and I would like make promises to myself about like, hey, like here's your goals and here's the things that you want to do and the ways that you want to feel. And like, I was like, I don't want to be associated with this type of people anymore. And I don't want to be associated with these types of situations. And I want to start being around with people that evolve me and grow me and maybe even challenge me, right? Because I think that because I felt so low on myself that I hung out with people that I felt were either my level or lower, so I could feel better about myself. And it's not even conscious. You know what I mean? It's when you take a step back and you look at it, I think I became conscious and aware of it, but I didn't know it. You can't see the forest for the trees, right? So I didn't know it back then, but I know it now, and I see that it was just like, what is that saying? Like water seeks its own level, right? So I knew that I needed to level up, and I needed to just be a better version of myself. So I think that inadvertently, when you make a decision to shift, that like life kind of unfolds in ways that you wouldn't expect it to. And a lot of it's scary. I actually put a video up on my Instagram one day when I was having a little bit of a breakdown, and I was like, I cried a little bit, and I was like, healing is so hard. Like when you make this decision to heal and you make this decision to like be better and do better, like there's a lot of like emotions that come up. And when you cut out doing drugs and you cut out drinking and you cut out all the people that are circulated around that, and then you feel lonely and you feel empty and you feel sad, and you're faced with all these like, that shadow work, as they call it these days. And then you're just like, like, who am I and what am I and what have I been doing this entire time? And I just knew that I was not living to my potential, and I was tired of it. And I was willing to do, I think you guys said, like, I was like, you get to a point where you're willing to do whatever it takes to shift, because eventually you get sick of your own bullshit. And you get sick of, and like, I'm like, my favorite saying too is I'm not a pond, I'm a river, and I keep flowing, you know what I mean? And I like to keep growing, and I like to keep evolving, and I like to keep, learning new things. And someone the other day said to me too, they were like, your mind can never be full. You've never stopped learning. You've never stopped taking in more information. And it's like, it's all a process, you know, like every day you pick up a new habit, or you pick up a new routine. And I started playing the bass guitar, and I started singing more. I love singing. I've always loved singing, but I stopped because I got booed off stage when I was in grade 5. You know what I mean? I went to a new school, and it was like, never going to sing again. But then one day I was like, but I love singing, and singing is what makes me feel so in touch with like spirit and like God and whatever you want to call it. And I told myself, I was like, you're going to start being vulnerable, and you're going to put singing videos on your Instagram, even if you suck. So I just started putting videos up, you know what I mean? And just putting myself out there. And then eventually I started taking dance classes, and then I started playing the bass guitar, and then I started going to jams. And like, this is all now within the last like 3-4 years that I started, you know, to really, really evolve. And sometimes I have to take a step back and remind myself and like look at my photo albums and my memories, and like look what you've done, like look at all the things that you've done, and the accomplishments that you've made. And then you guys talked about, like we mentioned, because I think that was Cam's biggest thing for wanting me to come on here, because he always loves to big up and talk about my story evolving from really a lot of it's synchronistic in kind of way, because when I started to decide I wanted to grow bigger and better for myself, it was like one day I got into my car after a shift at one of the bars that I worked at, and I was like, I called my buddy and I was like, I hate working in the bar industry. I'm like, you got to get me out of here. And he's like, well, I work for a Kidco. Do you want to come work for Kidco? He's like, it's the end of the season. You could come like run Rock Truck. And I was like, sure, done. I'm like, get me in. It took a couple of months, but finally he called me one day and he was like, do you want to come? He's like, do you have boots? I was like, I've got boots. I'm like, let's go. So I dove in and never looked back. But let me tell you, when I started running Rock Truck, that was like huge. I thought that I was like facing myself with my confidence, but like being in a rock truck by yourself with your own thoughts, and you have a bunch of men being like, you don't know what you're doing, or yelling at you because you dumped a thing of dirt in the wrong spot, or they're not communicating with you properly. And I was just like, I can't navigate around a construction site. This is scary. But like, that was also part of the process of my growth. You know, it was like the blossoming of like a new era for me. And then I evolved into going to work up north, and I ran haul truck in a mine. And then I came back to Calgary, and that's when I actually met Cam, because I went through like a really messed up transitional period when I lived up in Fort Mac. I was working up there. I ended up like dating the wrong guy. We got in a fight and we broke up, and then I crashed my car, and then my ex-boyfriend died of a cocaine overdose. And so it was like, it rained and it poured. I ended up coming back to Calgary, and I remember saying to one of my friends like a year prior, when he got me on with, I'm kind of jumping around here, but I'm a little bit excited.
It's all good.
But I started at Kidco, and like 6 months in, he was like, I was saying to him, I'm like, I think I want to be a crane operator. And he was like, what do you mean? He's like, you just started running Rock Truck. I'm like, no, I'm going to be a crane operator. I'm like, it looks really, really cool. So fast forward all this time, and I got shoved back into Calgary, and then I got my own place. And it was like a beautiful transition for me. I ended up living there for 2.5 years, and it became my sanctuary, and I loved living there, and I was independent, doing it solely on my own. And then I talked to all the right people, and then I ended up just falling into the crane and hoisting trade. And yeah, that's kind of like a short synopsis of my story right there. It's like, I just made a freaking decision that I was going to stop living small. And life was just like, okay, cool, are you ready?
That's amazing. That's amazing. But it's the mindset that you put out there too, right? Like you already had that in your mind. You're pushing that out there. Like, I want to be a crane operator, you know, just like days into doing what you're doing. Or was it days or weeks? Or
I'd say it was like, I was driving around site. It was probably a couple of months, and I was seeing cranes on site, and I was like, I think I want to be a crane operator. And all the guys were like, oh, it's one of the hardest trades to get into. You're not going to be able to do it. I've tried, da-da-da-da-da. And then for me, it was like, I talked to one person, then I talked to another person, I talked to another person, then I was in the union, and then they were like, yeah, we got you a job here. And then it just blossomed from there. And it all just seems so like serendipitous, if that mobile? Makes sense. Yeah, mobile cranes. Yeah.
That's
now, if you don't mind me asking, Therian, how old were you when this all kind of came to fruition, like your current career?
Well, I'm 35 now, and you're talking about cranes specifically, or being in construction?
Well, like kind of when it went from the bar phase to construction. And
so yeah, it was like I started at Kidco right before COVID. So like 2019.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, about the last, I'd say solidified the last 5 years I've been in construction.
And how long you been running a crane?
I'm a third year apprentice now, so 2.5 years.
So
And how?
for anybody listening, like who thinks that they're too old or they have a million fucking excuses as to why they can't make a decision in their life, here's someone sitting here proving that it doesn't matter when the fuck you decide to make that decision. It can always be made.
100%. It really
Absolutely.
comes down to how badly do you want something to happen. And sometimes something's not meant to happen, and I definitely believe in signs like that. Like sometimes you want something so bad and you push and push and push, but you keep getting pushed back. But for me, the fact that it happened so like kind of seamlessly was like that was I was meant to be doing it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was, and you guys were saying in the pre-show here when you guys were talking, it's like, because I would say the same thing to you guys. Like if you're, you know, Eric, you're in construction and you're like, I'm tired of construction. Well, I'm like,
I am. Yeah.
it's, you know, but that's okay. And, you know,
Mhm.
and it's okay to shift gears and it's okay
Yeah.
to go in a new direction and it's okay to try something different. You know how many people will stay doing the same thing for 40 years and bitch about it?
I don't want to be miserable. You know what I mean? This
Yeah.
right here fills my bucket, and I would love to find something in media or something like that. You know what I mean? Because that would help feed my bucket or fill my bucket, not feed it, but yeah, fill it. My
For
bucket's not
me,
hungry.
my bucket gets filled when I'm doing art, like art, when I'm singing or going to a jam or anything like
Mhm.
that. But unfortunately, I haven't found a way for that to pay the bills. And
Yeah.
I love being able to afford a lifestyle. Like I like to travel. So like me being in construction and making crane money makes sense for me right now.
Yeah.
Is
Yep.
crane operating my dream destination job? Not necessarily, but I think it's pretty cool. And like I said, I think that me being in construction definitely paved my way for my own, like it was part of the self-worth journey and it was part of like the being able to step into myself and owning who I am and being able to like stand up to a motherfucker and be like, no, how about you're the wrong one actually.
Yeah.
You proved not only other people, but you proved yourself that like you are capable of doing whatever it
Yeah.
is that you want to do.
Yeah.
And I agree with the lifestyle thing too. Like, you know, like I live in a small town. I make pretty good money for considering where I live. Like it's not like if I went to the city, I'd probably be making almost double what I make. But for me to go to the city, that's sacrificing 4.5, 5 hours out of my day just driving, which
Mhm.
I can't afford with my kids. My kids are more important than money. You know what I
100%.
mean?
Yeah.
Mhm.
But for me to take a job, a different job, and sacrifice finances, that means I'm sacrificing the lifestyle that I have built for my kids. You know, like I got my tax return and I said to my kids, like, listen, I'm not wealthy. I got my tax returns like $2,500. I said to my kids, I was like, I'll give you $200 each to do with it whatever you want, as long as it's something productive. So my daughter's been into baking lately. I bought her a fucking stand mixer. I bought her all this shit. Like she literally had a box show up at the door from Amazon, just full of shit. And I'm still pressing my son because he doesn't. One day he wants to play drums. One day he wants to sing. The next day he wants to play ball hockey. So it's like, man, like you can do whatever you want to do. Like I will support you to the best of my ability in
Mhm.
whatever it is that you want to do. You just
Mm-hmm.
pick something, and I'll make sure you have whatever you need to do that thing.
Can I make a
You know?
suggestion?
What's that?
I would get the electronic drums where you can put headphones on, though, if that's the
Yeah,
case. Yeah.
I have been looking. I'm not buying him a full on fucking drum set.
Yeah,
I
kid,
No,
remember.
if you commit to a kid that likes music, you better be prepared for
Yeah.
the earthquakes.
Yeah. I used to be a
wow.
drummer, and I was in God, in my high school years, I was in Marilyn Manson cover band, and I was the drummer.
Nice.
And I had this beautiful Yamaha drum set. And then I came home from school one time and I only had the snare left. My mom got rid of everything. She's like, I can't take it anymore. I just
Aw.
can't. Yeah. But it was okay because I was kind of over the whole Marilyn Manson cover band anyway. So it kind of worked out better for me.
Didn't you go see him in concert like 6
I
months
did.
ago?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
did. Yeah,
I
yeah. That
fucking
was
thought you
fucking
did.
awesome. He's
Was
a
it
tall
crazy?
dude. Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he's a monster. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I forgot. He was opening up though for
Five Finger Death Punch,
Five.
wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
Bro, why do I know
Yeah.
more about this shit than you do? And I didn't even
Like he
fucking
was
know.
there.
Yeah. I like Marilyn. I don't really know Five Finger Death Punch, to be honest. They were great, but Marilyn Manson's more like the reason why I went there, just for the opening, to be honest with
Yeah, they're
That's
like
pretty cool.
Five Finger Death Punch is like a fucking. They're like biker metal.
you. Yeah,
That's how I described
I
them.
had a great time though. I had
Yeah,
a really good time.
I would see
Yeah.
Five Finger Death Punch. I'd see
Yeah.
Marilyn Manson too.
Yeah, it was really good. I mean,
Mhm.
Marilyn Manson has always been. I've always liked his music. Everybody's like, "Oh, you're fucked." I'm like, "Yeah, whatever, man. Think whatever you
That's
want."
why I listen to Marilyn Manson.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I like music for like I like country. There's classical music I like. I like rap. I like my hard styles. I love my hard styles.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I love it all, man. As long as it sounds good to me, fuck, I'll listen to it. You
As
know?
long as it's quality music. I'm one of
Yeah.
those people too. I'm like, if you get in the car with me and my playlist is on shuffle, beware, you're going to hear opera, you're going to hear
Yeah.
country, you're going to hear a little bit of everything, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
There's definitely some primary focuses, but my
Yeah.
niece is 25 and she told me she's going to see Nelly, Chingy, and Ja Rule, and I was like,
Holy
oh,
cow.
My buddy just saw
Yeah.
them last week in Toronto.
Yeah, they're
Nice.
coming to
And then he-
Vancouver too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then he just saw on Saturday. He went and saw fucking Mercules and Icarus in Oshawa. They were
Oh,
in
really?
Oshawa.
Nice.
Yeah, I would have gone, but I was sick, man. That would have been
Yeah.
cool. Though, just be like, hey, I know you guys know who I am. What's up?
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
fuck.
they I know I saw the post because they follow us, right? And I
Yeah.
saw on their thing, so I was like, oh fuck. I was gonna message you actually and tell you they're in your hometown, man.
Yeah, they were in Oshawa.
Yeah. I saw. Yeah, they got off the airplane and they were like, yeah, we just landed.
Hmm.
But yeah.
So, Therian, how do you find working in the field of work that you do, working with men? Like,
I was gonna ask you.
do you see a lot of unhealed trauma and a lot of men who
God.
don't know or understand their emotions?
100%. And I think we touched on this when we did the interview, and I said, like, the fact that you guys are doing this, I know that, like, men's mental health awareness, I think mental health in general needs to be a little more touched on, but men's mental health, because this is like generational centuries of bottle it in and fight it out and like that's how it is. And like, I get that women and men are wired differently. We are. But the thing that I've come to the conclusion of is, at the end of the day, we're all human, and to cry, that is a basic human emotion. And I think that men are denied that emotion so much that it's like, it's very unhealthy. You know, I think you men, all of you, need to cry more. And there's nothing wrong with it. You know, it doesn't make you any less of a man, because like that is a normal release.
Yeah.
You know. So anyhow, I think that, yeah, like I grew up in a like, it's funny because I've gone through my levels of trauma and things that I've dealt with, but arguably I had a pretty good childhood. Both my parents were fairly level-headed people. My dad was a great guy. He showed up, he was supportive, he was very loving and caring. And like, my parents could fight sometimes, but both of them were like fairly stable individuals. So I think I grew up with this like naivety that like the whole world operated that way. So I think that was part of my detriment when I came out into the real world. I realized that there's a lot of people out there that are very sick and very unstable and very chaotic. And that was hard for me to navigate. And yes, so when I started in construction, I remember specifically one of my foremen that I worked with when I was at Kidco still, he would just like literally blow his hat, like just lose his absolute goddamn mind. And like a lot of the guys were like, oh, like this isn't even his worst. Like he usually throws hammers at people. And I was like, that's okay? Like, what do you mean? Like, and just because he's so unhinged and so stressed out that we should all be okay with that and think that that's normal behavior. And I don't know what it is. I think that you men are just, sorry, I'm generalizing a little bit, but like,
no,
I think that men are conditioned to think that that's okay and normal behavior, and it's okay to like little and to yell and to you know, just completely like demean each other. And it's like that has an effect on the soul at the end of the day. You know, we're not soulless people. You still have a heart and a soul deep down in there. So yeah, I used to cry when this guy would lose it, because I was like, and then I learned to not take it personally. And I also learned how to stand my ground and be like, how you're behaving is not okay. You know what I mean? Like, I've been with like, I've had boyfriends in the past that have been abusive, and like I wish that I had known that then in my early 20s and been like, no, fuck you, motherfucker. But yeah, when I stepped into the construction industry, it was like I had to really be like, oh, and who the fuck do you think you are actually? Like, did your mommy not kiss you enough when you were a little boy? Like, what happened?
To play the game. I was gonna say that's what we do is just throw a couple get fucks around and fuck yous, and that's how we handle it.
Yeah.
And I follow a women in trades page, Alberta Women in Trades, on Facebook and Instagram, and like some of the girls on there talk the same thing. They're like, oh, this guy is telling me this and saying that. I'm like, tell him to go fuck himself and how the fuck to get there. And it's usually, no offense, it's usually the boomers, the older guys that think that they can talk shit.
Yeah.
And you're like, you don't need to be abusive and you don't need to treat people like that. It's so unnecessary. We're all here working these, 10, 12, 14-hour days. Nobody wants to be doing this, and we're all suffering. And like, you don't need to make it worse for people. Like, work sucks.
So from like hearing that just tells me that it's like that's his output, I guess you could say. You know what I mean? Like that's the only way that person or people like that really need to know how to express their feelings, because it's just anger.
And I was gonna say, well, society tells us, like, society doesn't tell us shit. Society has conditioned men that the only acceptable emotion that we are allowed to show is anger. And the best place for a man to do that, in my experience, over the last 15 plus years I've been doing it, is in a construction field. Definitely. Because you can get away with throwing fucking hammers. You can get away with punching holes in the wall, because guess what? You have the tools right there to fix it. Yeah. Like, I used to throw my fucking hammer like a tomahawk and stick it in the wall. Oh, yeah. You know what I mean? Like, part of my job now is I get to fucking smash glass.
I had a foreman throw a hammer at my head, man.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was saying. The one guy that I'm talking about, they said that, like, he would throw them at people in their gear and, like, and stakes and all that shit. I was what the hell? And yeah, like but you know what? On the flip side, I've also worked in environments where some guys, like the guys are really awesome and like we have good crew and like good laughs and and obviously you also, at being a woman, you get your pervy dudes too. The guys that think that they can cross the line quite often. You're like, oh, okay, like there's healthy banter. There's some things that can be jokes about, but then sometimes you're like, that's not okay, and that's kind of inappropriate, But that's another story. But I recently watched Bill Burr's, his most recent special. I think it was on Disney Plus. Anyways, he actually, because Bill Burr, right?
Yeah.
He literally, I wasn't sure what to expect from this recent special, but he literally said that he's like, all this time, I'm going to be butchering the words here, but he basically said, all this time I've been like so angry, and all I realized, he's like, you know why we're angry? Because we're not crying.
Yeah,
like,
it's true.
That's really what it is. It's really what it is. It's pent up emotion, and then you're just like,
Yeah.
And because crying is a release. You need to cry. It's a normal human bodily function.
Yeah. Well, and as a man, I will say, like, I have become aware enough of the difference between wanting to explode in anger and needing to cry. And I can tell the difference. And the hardest thing for me to do was, first of all, to convince myself that it was safe enough to cry alone. And like you were saying before, like, we have this hole in us and we want to fill it with something. Like, I remember I talked about this was last summer. So this was almost a year ago. I remember like driving around by myself, and I could fucking feel that I needed to cry, and I wanted to cry, but I couldn't. So I started putting on like songs that I knew would make me fucking get in my feels.
Push you over that edge.
And I'm literally driving around. Yeah, I'm literally driving around and I'm screaming at myself with the windows up, and I'm like, it's fucking okay, man. Like, you're okay. And as soon as I said you're okay, I just fucking boom. And now it's just like, I can feel it. I can feel it in the morning, and I've been holding it in for fucking 29 years, right? So I can, if I feel it in the morning, I can get to the end of the day. But I'll come home some days and just fucking lay in my bed, have a cry, and it's the most relieving feeling next to sex, honestly. Like, emotionally.
I wasn't even going to bring that up, but I was going to say, it's almost like having a fucking orgasm. Like, if you don't cry, you're holding back that is a different form of release, but it's still a release. And if you're not crying, that's like denying yourself from orgasms for the rest of your
Just
fucking
like
life.
edging yourself every day.
That's crazy. So you shouldn't do that. And that's just, that's all I'm going to say there.
After this podcast, then I'm going to go and get off and cry at the same time. And
get off then.
Yeah. Well, I always say, no, that's not what I was going to say. Never mind. I'm not going to say that.
So the other thing that I've noticed too, that I'll touch on, that I've noticed about men, because we have this like social dynamic that men are supposed to be the providers and women are supposed to be the caregivers, and that's fine and that's cool if that works for everybody. But then I'm not a parent, so it's hard for me to say this without people being like, well, you don't know what it's like. So hear me out though. I think that it's important at the end of the day for each individual to maintain some sort of like self, because there's a lot of guys that go out and they're like, I'm working the 14-hour days and I'm slaving away, and then my wife left me. She took me for all I got. Now I have nothing. And I was like, okay. So I think it's important for men especially, but everybody, you have to maintain some kind of like, what do you do for you?
Yeah.
How do you take care of yourself?
Yeah.
What makes you happy at the end of the day? What's your passion? I asked one of the guys that I worked with, I said to him, I was like, well, what are you passionate about? And he literally stopped and was like, he's like, I actually don't know. And I was like, maybe start there, like.
Should probably figure that out.
Yeah. You're almost 40 and you have no fucking clue what gets you motivated. And it could be something so simple. Some guys like to play sports, or some guys like to watch sports, or some guys like to, whatever the fuck it is, you got to have something that, what
you enjoy that brings a smile to your face.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Something that doesn't have anything to do with work, but like we've been ingrained in society that it's like the 14-hour days, get your overtime, make the money, get the boat, get the RV, get the wife, get the big ring, have the kids, blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, okay, that's all well and good, but like, what are you doing at the end of the day to like really like satisfy your soul?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like a broad identity. You need your own identity that's going to, that, like you said, to help the soul. I mean, and it could be anything, even like video games, if you need like that space for an hour to play video games, even, like whatever it may be. Like video games changed my life. It also saved my life. I was supposed to go with my friends, and my friend lost his life. And the reason why I didn't go out is because I was too busy playing World of Warcraft. And I was like, I'm raiding. And like, you're a fucking nerd. But I mean, if I went out with them that night, who knows? It could have been me. You never know.
Yeah.
It call it what it is. The fucking thing saved my life,
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it's like, and the thing about me, like, definitely when I was younger, why I played video games is because I could be whoever I wanted to be, so I didn't have to live this life. I could be a bad guy. I could be a fucking, I don't know, whatever, like anything, in a video game. You can go to space. You can do things.
It's a form of healthy escape is what it is.
Yeah.
Right?
And that's like anything. Like coloring. Coloring now is a big thing for me. I love coloring.
Coloring is a great stress relief.
Yeah,
and
huge.
That's one of those things that people would be like, oh, what do you mean fag or whatever, and it's like, no, like it's doing art is a great form of like psychological release. You can just, it's a way to be completely present, let go of everything. Like, and for me, like I said, it's singing. When I sing, I could care less about anything else going on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I just completely let go. I'm completely in the moment. I'm not worrying about anything. And like you guys talked to Cam, like Cam has his project car. So for a lot of guys, it might be go out in the garage and tinker with whatever the hell it is.
Is him on that fucking car.
I told him, I was like, you don't give up on that thing.
I know.
So fucking close. But so it's like, you got to have something that just makes you feel
your identity.
Yeah. Just some kind of a hobby, I guess you could say.
Yeah. And to be clear on this, if you have kids, because I had this conversation with my therapist. She's like, what do you do for you? I'm like, well, I have my meetings. She's like, that's not for you. You're there to help other people. I'm like, okay. Well, like spending time with my kids. She's like, that's not for you. That's you're being a parent. Like you have to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I forget what else I said. I was like hanging out with people like at work. She's like, you're at work. That's not for you. And it made me really sit back and fucking think about what I do for me. Like, what is my thing, you know? And I will say this is it, but also at the same time, this also doesn't fall under the self-care category. It fills my cup 100%. And I love doing this because it doesn't feel like work. And I genuinely do this out of the kindness of my heart because it makes me feel good.
Yeah, we don't
Mhm.
get paid for this shit.
Yeah, but this isn't self-care either.
No.
You know? Like,
There's
I know
ways
what you're...
there's ways to get paid in life that aren't, you know,
Yeah.
aren't money wise.
Definitely.
And I know what your self-care is, Eric, because you talked to me about on the phone the last 2 times, so I don't want to bring it.
Yeah.
That when you're playing Red Dead, the thing that you do on Red Dead.
Yeah,
So,
man.
that's
It's an
your
RP
self-care.
server, so it's like a role play server. And it's
Yeah.
just, it's so much fun. So you, like, I just got into it. Like, my buddies just got in there. Like, you got to try this, man. And I shit you not, I haven't played video games in, like, a couple years now. You know?
Mhm.
I really haven't. Definitely since the podcast. I got no time. But since I got a little bit of time on my hands, my buddy's like, you got to try this. And you call me a nerd, call me whatever you want, but it is so fucking fun. And me and my buddies are running around and we're robbing people. And it's so much fun. Like, if you haven't played like any RPs, it's Red Dead Redemption RP. It's amazing. It's different, and it's fun. And it I haven't actually had this much fun in a video game since probably like 2016, 2016, I think it was. Yeah, you know,
Almost fucking 10 years, bro.
almost 10 years, man. You know, but at the same time, like, I never had time to play video games, really, you know, and then I kind of forgot about it. I got a amazing fucking computer here. Never used it for that, really. We do it on the podcast. But now getting this, I was like, fuck, man, like, this is actually, you know, it's fun. It takes me away from, you know, my worries for a minute, you know, but it clears my head and I get to hang out with really cool people and do fucking cool things and fucking hilarious. Some of the, like, buddy, I was laughing my ass off. Like, there's 4 of us. We were just laughing our ass off so fucking hard. I haven't laughed that hard in a long time. It was just so funny. We had a great time, man. You know, it's just, you got to find something that's going to put a smile on your face. You know, even if it's temporary for the time being into whatever, but you gotta take care of yourself. You got to put a smile on your face. What makes you feel young again, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
It brings out the child in you.
Yeah, and that's what we forget. You know, we grow up. You know, we're just at the end of the day, we all are just big kids.
Mhm.
You know, and it's sad because we forget about these things that we do. Like, I was at the playground today with my daughter, and it's just like watching these kids run around, man, and it just kind of like, I was kind of like, you know, as adults, we're too busy, stressed out. But then here's these kids just running around and having the time of their lives.
Because eventually someone comes up to you and says, well, you know, you're not going to make any money doing that. Or, you know, that's never going to get you anywhere. Or, you know, that's never going to be something that's going to get you ahead in life or whatever the hell, right?
Yeah.
And then
it
you
destroys everything.
Yeah. Your childhood gets shut off and then you're just like, oh, I guess I got to, you know.
Well, like, inner child is a real thing. Like, if you ever want to fucking sob, go do like guided inner child meditations and they will fucking ruin you.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because it's like visualizing like walking up to your like childhood home and seeing your infant self on the porch and like going up and like grabbing it by the hand and like walking it down and like having a conversation with your inner child and just like seeing what your inner child has to say and you reassuring your little self that like it's gonna be okay. Like it's fucking heavy shit, man.
Oh, I bet, man.
Like I've done them a couple times. Oh yeah, I've done them a couple times, and not even that, like not even the trauma, but just like visualizing like yourself telling your little self that like it's all good, man. You know, like all these big fears we had when we were so little, or things we were scared of. Sort of like you shared tonight, Therian, like all these people you were worried about when you were little, like they don't matter anymore. Like everything that you were worried about worked out just fine. Like you turned into a pretty fucking cool person.
Yeah.
and just like doing it through this guided
I always
meditation.
have been a cool person, you know. That's exactly what I would say to younger me. I'd be like, "You are cool," and a lot of those people. My mom said it to me. You know, she's like, "Bullies only are mean to people because they don't feel good about themselves." And I was like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, right, mom." But now I'm like, "No, she was right."
Yeah.
You know, those people would never talk shit about you or treat you like that if they actually had any foundation of their own to stand on.
It's true. Yeah.
Good people don't bring other people down like that. You know?
They want to bring you down to that level, right? That's what it is, because that's where they are. They just try to. They're vampires at the end of the day, right? They just suck the goodness out of people.
And there's a lot of them out there, a lot, and that's why I said like it was a rude awakening when I realized how many people have bad intentions.
Yeah,
and how many people.
But there's a good portion too that don't even know that they're doing it too mentally, because you know what I mean. And it's true. It's just
that's just
they
their
really
norm.
Yeah, and it could be because of how they were brought up or something like that, right? So you know, not everybody is, like I said before. Good people can do bad things, and it doesn't mean that they're a bad person. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Well, nobody's born bad.
Yeah.
You know, nobody's born being a hateful person, but it gets taught, right?
Yep.
And it gets taught by many different factors. So, and I mean, I could have grown up to be a dick, you know, for the way that I've been treated, and I could have remained in the darkness and decided to live a different way. But I was just like, well, no, like that's not me. Like I'm gonna shine bright and live my life the best that I can, and then learning boundaries. That's a big thing. Like learning how to cut off people that don't deserve to be in your life. And I've always said it's not personal, it's vibrational.
Yeah, I like that.
You ever done a sound bath? We just learned about vibrations. Holy fuck.
Yeah.
I have a couple of friends that do sound baths. I have not participated in one yet, and I would like to though.
You gotta go do it,
dude.
Yeah.
If they hang from what is it? Hang from the silks. Yeah.
Yeah, if you can do it in the silks, it'll change your life. It's
like
crazy.
hammocks. Yeah, so hammocks hanging down, and you like lay in these hammocks, and then the person does the sound bath, and you are just, it's bliss. It's completely bliss. It's amazing. It's
really,
insane.
Yeah, it's next level.
Yeah, we did one like that, and then we did another one at the house here.
On that couch that Erick's on.
Yeah.
I started sitting up like Erick is, and I was like fucking halfway on the floor by the time we were done, just like melted.
So it's kind of like going into hypnosis.
Yeah, pretty much. I was like snoring. I was snoring right out. I was like, because what it does is it massages your inners, because you think about it, you take a glass of water and you put like noise around it, it vibrates the water. Well, your body's made up with over 90% water in your body. So these vibrations, it's just, I don't want to bosh it. I mean, the thing is just amazing. It's
like a hard reset for your body. It's fucking crazy. Yeah. Like the vibrations and like different instruments hit you differently, and it's fucking crazy. Literally, just go watch our most recent episode that we had Jenny on, and she does sound baths. She's the one who did them for us. She changed my fucking life with them.
Well, different frequencies are supposed to activate different areas in your aura field, right? In your chakras, right?
Yeah.
So I have a basic understanding of it. I don't know why I haven't participated. So I definitely
make sure they got the gong. Make sure they got the gong.
The gong. If they don't have a gong, don't even do it.
Don't go if they don't got a gong.
I love it.
It was a wild. Like we were laying in these hammocks and she hit the gong. We wear masks, like you're out of it, right? You want to be so relaxed. And she hits this gong, and we thought like she was like bringing the gong around her head, but it wasn't. It was the frequency. It was like whoa, whoa, whoa. It was amazing. It
all
was
around
crazy.
You, yeah.
It was wild.
You're just getting completely like cocooned in these like in the energy fields.
It was. But you got to do it in the silks, hanging hammocks
from the ceiling.
So she does it. I could look her up and.
Oh yeah.
She's in Vancouver.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But like I said, I've got a couple of friends that do it here, but I don't know if it's that in depth. I don't know, but I've been invited to a couple, so if that's a sign,
should
maybe
do
I
it.
should go.
I was gonna say
Yeah.
the next one you get invited to, just fucking do it.
I'm
Yeah.
definitely open-minded to it, absolutely.
Yeah.
But like,
Yeah.
and that was the thing too. Like I've been like, it's just funny because a lot of people like to call it like woo-woo or whatever. But like,
That's what she said.
Yeah.
well, it gets made fun of like, oh, new age, blah 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 blah, and you're like, well, there's got to be some prevalence to it because a lot of it's been around for centuries.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And we are, we are beings made up of cells, made up of energy. I don't know if you've ever done DMT, but I definitely.
Yes. Yes.
I definitely
I
got.
didn't get that
Yes.
far.
No, well, I've done DMT. I don't know, 4 or 5 times. The last 2 times I did it was like, my buddy out on Vancouver Island, he was the one that kind of like assisted me in the second last one, and he was like, I was like, so how do you know if you pass through? And he was like, oh, you'll know.
Oh,
I
you'll
was like,
know. Yeah.
I was like, okay, cool. Because I definitely didn't before. Like, I definitely got like the body sensation, like some little tracers and stuff.
Did you get?
The last time I did it, I got
Yeah.
what I envisioned as the divine dark feminine going.
Yeah.
Like I was like, but the time when I did it on Vancouver Island, it was like a bright sunny day, and me and my friend, we went paddle boarding, and we had a couple wobbly pops by the water, and we're having a good day, like nothing crazy. And then we come back, and my buddy's like, do you want to do some DMT? I was like, yeah, let's do it. So I do it, and I just get whisked off into this world of like colors and rainbows, and then this like exotic, fiery, elfish looking woman with like flaming hair and like she's wearing like a corset. She's like busty, and she's just the embodiment of a woman. And she looks at me, and she's talking, but she's not talking. You know what I mean? But she talks in my head, and
Oh, yeah.
she's like, are you ready to go? And I was like, no. I was like, I'm actually kind of scared. And she's like, come on. And I was like, I don't know. And she's like, come on. And then she pulls me into this world where I'm just seeing like everything. Like, how do you even explain it? And that's exactly what I said to my buddy when I came back from the trip. I was like, how do you explain what I just saw? He's like, you can't.
You can't.
And I was like, it's insane. Because it's literally like, it's showing you how everything's interconnected and how we're all part of one big blob, and we're all the same thing essentially. And like the universe is the cell, and the cell is the universe, and it's like laughing at you and telling you how insignificant you are and how you think that it's this big thing, but it really isn't. And you're just like, holy shit.
Mm-hmm.
And then this lady, the goddess, the fire woman, comes up to me, and she was like, are you having a good time? And I was like, yeah. And then she was like, I'm gonna need you. She reached up into me and started forcing me to throw up, because she's like, you shouldn't be drinking alcohol. And I was like, oh. And so she like reached up, and like I started puking, and that's when I like came to, and I like looked around. I'm like in my friend's backyard on Vancouver Island, so there's trees and a creek, and like the trees were laughing at me, and I was like, oh my god. And I just ran over, and I like started spewing, and I was just like, holy shit. Like I had like this like spiritual experience where this lady basically confirmed, she's like, yeah, you shouldn't be like poisoning yourself with alcohol. And I was like, yeah, you're right. You're totally right. So that was a huge transitional period for me too. That was probably a couple of years ago now.
Yeah. See, I had a friend, and she went to Peru, and she did ayahuasca.
Ayahuasca,
yeah. With was a witch doctor, I guess it is, or like and she said it was
shaman.
Yeah, shaman. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And she came back, and she's like, this world doesn't matter anymore. This world doesn't matter. She's like, it doesn't matter.
It's almost hysterical. I'm laughing like this because it's like you kind of go into like this mode of like where you need to be reintegrated because you're looking at the world in a different lens now, and you're kind of like, yeah, like all this stuff that we make such a big deal out of really is
so insignificant. Yeah.
And I quite frankly think everybody should do it, but you know, not
at least once.
What's that?
At least once. I think they should try at least once. Yeah.
Unfortunately, I can't.
Except for Anthony.
Yeah.
And his crowd.
The thing is, I'm obviously not going to be like, you should. But I feel like those types of hallucinogens don't really fall in the category of like, I don't think that's a relapse. I feel like it's more of a spiritual thing. But that's not for me to dictate for you. Because it's not like, let's party and do some DMT. You know what I mean? It's not going to like, I don't know, but take what I
Nope.
say and am I frozen again?
Oh, it's okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with her anyways. I would say that there are certain circumstances where it may be viable, and I'm not promoting substance use by any means. I'm sure, like when we talk to Ed, Ed works closely with his doctor, and I'm not here to judge anybody who chooses to do those things. Me personally, I don't feel like it necessary. Also, because I did mushrooms so many times that I had so many bad trips that I'm just like, fuck mushrooms,
Yeah, I feel
and
you.
I smoked salvia twice. Yeah. I smoked
Salvia's
Yeah.
salvia
crazy
twice,
though.
and it
That
was a
shit's
fucking
fucked.
nightmare both
I know.
times.
Oh my fuck.
It was
Really,
awful.
really,
So
salvia
it's
is like,
just like,
oh, everything's
I
upside
wouldn't really
down and
have the
twisted.
desire to. I understand you can have like quite spiritual experiences or like epiphanies on those things, and we've talked to enough people who have had those experiences. So I think it's great. I have nothing against it. Just for me personally, I probably wouldn't.
I
Mhm.
definitely don't want to come off as a pusher
But a
because it's
sound
definitely not
bath,
how.
I feel like no. I feel like a sound bath was adequate enough for me in terms of like vibrational, like fucking out of this world experience. Like the physical
Mhm.
aspect of it was crazy. Like
That's
that was
good.
as
I
much
like
fun as
that.
I've had sober, like physically, like coming out of it as an experience that I've had in a long fucking time. By
And I
far.
actually have heard. Am I
Well,
lagging?
I think you should
Am I
ask her.
lag?
Yeah, when she's back, I think she's frozen still.
Uh-oh.
Let me see if I can fix that. Oh, there she is.
Oh, there you are.
Am I
Oh,
lagging?
she's
What's
trying to
going
fix
on?
her thing. There you go. You're back.
I'm back.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
you were frozen for a minute there.
I was
Okay.
still listening to you guys. So yeah, I don't want to seem like I'm a pusher or anything. That's definitely
Oh yeah.
what I wasn't trying to come off as that way. I think that it's a beautiful thing if you have sobriety and
Yeah,
you're
you're
able
lagging.
to.
I'm gonna
Hold
try
on.
something here.
Okay.
We'll go
See
like
if you
that.
can see if you can just shut her camera off.
Am I still lagging?
Just see if you can shut it off for a sec so she comes back.
I did. Can you hear us right now?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Hello?
Yeah.
Oh, you
Okay.
can hear
Hello?
us?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why that's doing
Yeah,
that.
we can hear you.
We
No,
were still.
There we go. I got you.
yeah. Yeah, no, I take no offense to it. I don't think you're pushing it all. And ultimately it's my recovery. Like I can say no. I'm comfortable saying no. And I don't feel like you're pushing. One of the aspects that I do love about this is that I get to hear those experiences, especially from others who've experienced things that I physically won't allow myself to experience given my circumstances. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't offend me at all. I love hearing those experiences. It's great. Yeah.
I've reached a point now though. I'm like, when I think about doing ayahuasca,
So
I'm like, I feel like it's a big step, and I don't know if I want to do it. I'm like, I think I've had enough of like seeing that experience.
yeah, I feel like there's some of those things that are like a fucking commitment. That and the bufo or whatever it is, the toad stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
man. 5-MeO.
yeah.
Yeah,
I
like
had a buddy that did it
that's like a
recently.
fucking commitment.
Yeah,
You
dude.
know, like
It
you
seems
you
pretty
better
intense.
be prepared to sit down and completely change your life. Like I saw an interview with Mike Tyson when he did it, and he said it was the most profound experience that he's ever had was when he did the bufo thing.
Really.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have
I'll
to
see if I can find
watch
it.
that. Yeah, yeah. Send that to
Yeah,
me.
I'll find it and see if I can send it to you.
But so,
So
like,
Therian, I hope we can keep your internet connection good enough because I have 2 questions for you.
am I still lagging?
A wee
little
bit.
bit, yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna shut my camera off again.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Oh yeah, you're good. You're good.
Yep. Yep.
Okay. Maybe I'll just keep the camera off for now.
Okay.
That's
Should
okay.
I ask the original question or the new question first, Eric?
Let's go new.
Okay. What's your definition of home, Therian?
My definition of home. I feel at home in a lot of places because I try to cultivate good relationships with a lot of people. So like I feel at home everywhere because I've created like a surrounding of love for myself and for the people that I surround myself with.
Okay.
So
I like it.
I mean, like obviously when someone thinks about home, they think about like their home that they've built around them with like 4 walls and a door. Obviously we all like to have our sanctuary in a place or a safe place for us to rest our heads. But when you say home, I think about like all the times where I've been invited to be around people that I love And I think it's just being surrounded by people that I love and people that I care about. That feels like home to me.
I like it.
Perfect.
I like
I'm
it.
glad you didn't take it on the surface level because it was meant to be the deeper question. So
yeah, well, I can be like,
thank you
well,
for
home
acknowledging that.
is where the heart is. But I mean, essentially, that's kind of what I said. Basically, it's like, where do you feel most comfortable and happy and at peace? And that's when I'm
Yeah.
surrounded by people that I love and people that make me feel secure.
Perfect. And question number 2, what is your message to the world in one sentence?
I wish the camera was on right now.
I know, so you can just see your thinking face.
I'll try to turn it. Does it work?
Yeah,
it works.
My message to the world. Can I take a second to think about it?
Of course, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. This is your moment and your message to the world.
Yeah, it would be stay true to yourself. Stay true to yourself, love yourself, and don't doubt yourself. Don't doubt who you are or how you show up or the things you have to offer this world. Because even if you feel small, then you're going to show up small. And you just got to just do you. Just be yourself.
Perfect answer.
You know what's crazy? We've been asking that question for probably 4 or 5 months now.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think we've ever got the same answer for that one. Like, I don't think anybody's have given the same message. Their message has been the same.
I got a new question, but we'll talk about this later.
No, go for it. Just go for it. I didn't even ask permission for my new one, so go for it.
Is it okay?
I like questions. Yeah. Let's go.
Okay. What's one thing you would tell your younger self?
I would tell myself not to worry so much. Don't worry about the outcome. Don't worry about what you did or didn't do. I remember one of the bigger things, like when I was 17, all my friends were graduating and I didn't graduate because I decided to drop out, even though I was a good student. It was like, don't worry about it. You're going to be okay. And actually that would be the thing. You're going to be okay. I would just say, like, you're going to be all right. And you are all right.
Yeah.
Like, there's no right or wrong way to go about life, and you're going to have mistakes and you're going to trip up and do stupid shit. But you know what? At the end of the day, you're going to find your way through.
Hell yeah. What do you think about that one, Anthony?
That's a fucking good one. That's a good question. Those 3 are saying.
We're adding questions answers for the last. We do this to every episode. We ask.
I like
now.
that. It's good. Get people thinking.
Definitely.
And so one of the things that I was thinking of in the last couple of weeks too, I think that because when I take time to like kind of be quiet by myself and meditate, I think one of the things that I thought was, if you're unwilling to let go, that could literally kill you. And it wasn't exactly that in my head, those words, but it was like, if you don't let go, that can literally, it'll destroy you, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely.
You have to be willing to let go. And it's the relationship, it's the situation, it's the thought that something was supposed to be this way and it isn't. Whatever that is, if you don't let go, it will kill you. It'll destroy you.
Well, I'll put it to you this way, because this is a saying in recovery. Like, you're essentially talking about resentments or things that you don't want to let go of. And we have a saying in recovery: a resentment is drinking poison expecting somebody else to die. Right? And you'll keep yourself sick over these people, places, and things until you're willing to let it go.
100%.
And it will fucking kill you. You're 100% right, it will kill you.
Yep. Whether it shows up as an addiction, whether it shows up as an illness, whether it shows up as a hatred or an attitude or whatever, like, if you don't let go of what you thought, whatever, it will fuck you up, and it's only going to fuck up your present day and make you have a bad time.
Yeah. Absolutely.
100%.
So 100%. Let go, let God.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or let go, let universe. Just let go in general. Just let it be.
It's not yours to carry anymore.
Love it.
All you have is this moment. Just be here now.
Live it. Live this moment.
Hell yeah.
Well, on that note, I just want to say thank you so much for coming out, sharing your little piece of this world that we live on. We appreciate it, and it's nice to hear from, your side of the world. Like, I mean, not your side of the world, but your side of the gender, I guess you could say. you know.
I really appreciate being here. I obviously, like I said, I was a little nervous. I don't know why, because I also learned about myself that I'm a little bit of a choke artist.
Yeah, you did great. Yeah.
At first I was, and like I think that that's still that like deeply rooted, like I'm a little bit afraid and I'm a little bit
Mhm.
shy and I'm a little bit like unsure of myself sometimes, and that shows up every now and then, even though I've worked on it. And it's like,
But
no,
you're only
like you,
human. You're only
yeah,
human. At the
yeah.
end of the day, you're only human, right? So, and
I
like you
think
said
that was a
before,
fucking phenomenal episode.
yeah, it was great.
Like phenomenal.
Definitely.
Well, I,
Definitely.
I could sit here and talk to you guys for so much longer, and like I love talking like this, and I love having these conversations, and I think it's just so great if everybody jumped on the same page and had more conversations like this. The world would be a better place.
On that note, follow us because we have these conversations every Monday,
I will.
Yeah, sick plug. That was a sick plug.
right?
Nailed
So
it.
follow us, email us, rawmindspodcast@gmail.com, and you can sit in the hot seat like that. And
Yeah.
we can have these conversations with you. So, yeah, I had to. That was the best part. That was a perfect
Yeah.
opportunity to plug that.
That was perfect. And yeah, Therian, honestly, anytime you want to have these types of conversations, like we're obviously all going to stay in contact. It's like that's going to be a thing. So anytime we have an opening or you feel you want to come on, you're more than welcome back anytime.
Thank you.
Definitely. Definitely. I had a
Absolutely.
blast. This is good.
Thank you. I appreciate it, and I think what you guys are doing is great, and keep on keeping on, and just keep letting your light shine, and
Hell yeah.
make the world a better place one step at a time.
I keep on
Thank you.
showing.
And Therian, you are in Calgary as well? Sick. Well, when we come out to visit Cam, we'll all get together.
I would love
Definitely.
And I'll drink
Absolutely.
Virgin Caesars while you guys can have a beer.
that. Yeah,
Sounds
hell
good.
yeah. We can
Sounds
totally
good.
do that. Absolutely.
Perfect.
Well, I have to say thank you again. Appreciate you
Yes,
coming out.
thank you.
Always a pleasure, Anthony.
Always a pleasure, my friend.
We'll do this again next week. And we got our final woman guest, Maggie, showing up.
Mhm.
So that'll
Next
be,
week.
yeah.
Not final, just
Final forever or final
No, final this. We got a streak going on right
a
now.
trilogy of
Yeah.
females.
Yeah.
There's a trend going on, and it's that for final for the foreseeable future.
Yeah. Well, no, a final for this.
This stretch. Yeah.
Cool. Well, I'm grateful to be a part of it, and thank you guys again.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Okay.
On that note, bye.
Bye.
Adios. Bye, guys.
Perfect. That was awesome.